Welcome to the Practical Data Lunch and Learn. We have Sanjeev Mohan. He is one of the smartest people I know in the industry. He was the former VP of research at Gartner for data and analytics. He's one of the tightest pulses I've seen in the industry. And so welcome, Sanjeev. Take it away.
Thank you. This is my crowd. So although Joe's crowd, but this is the crowd I like to hang out with. So I am super honored to have this opportunity to talk to all of you. And like Joe said, I love to take questions as we go. I'm not really, my goal is not to do a monologue on what's going on, but really to have a nice, engaging discussion. I won't spend much time on my introduction. Joe already mentioned some of it. I did write a book, Data Products for Dummies. Writing is actually a passion for me. In fact, I think writing is probably the most important skill that all of you who are listening should develop if you don't already do it. Joe, you know, is a prolific writer. One of my favorite lines that I learned only a few years ago when I left Gartner and became independent and I started blogging was from an author. She passed away a few years ago from New York. Her name was Joan Didion. She once said, "I write to find out what I'm thinking." And I find that really powerful because once I start writing my blogs, then I suddenly realize, oh, wait, I don't know this fact or I don't know that. So let me go and research. And writing makes you much better because you fill in the gaps. And other than writing, I also do occasional podcasts. I do about 2 a month. And some of my sites are listed here. Now, talking about writing, one of the things that I've done for 2 years in a row is to look ahead as to what is coming in the following year. So in December of 2023, I wrote a blog on what are the trends for 2024. So for this talk, when Joe invited me to talk, I was looking to see what deck should I use or what deck should I create. And I realized that the trends that I had laid out with a co-author, his name is Rajesh Parekh, both of us had laid out 10 trends, and it turned out that all those trends are still valid in mid or late 2025. So I decided not to change, so that 2024 is not a typo. It is still the trends for 2025 and going into 2026. So because we had 10 trends, instead of having a mind-boggling set of like trends for this and that, we broke it down into what are the most important critical trends for 2024 and hence 2025, what trends are important but they're stable, and what are declining. Now, as you can imagine, I got the most criticism from the declining trends because some people didn't like it. So let's take a look at what are these 10 trends, and then this is the only slide I'll be presenting today. We are happy to have a discussion. So I want to start with declining. So one of the things that we started noticing, Rajesh, my co-author, and I, was that during the pandemic, when a lot of us, everybody, the whole world was locked into their homes, they were coming up with innovative solutions to help their organizations. When pandemic lifted, people went back to work. They realized that they built all these solutions that were amazing, and it was the time of zero interest, ZERP. So money was no object. You could easily convince a VC to fund your business, and that led to an explosion of products that did very minute segmentation of the data lifecycle. For example, data observability. Is data observability really a category or is it a capability? Lineage. Lineage in my mind is definitely a capability, but there's a bunch of companies that only do data lineage. So they're standalone companies. So that modern data stack exploded. And you've seen some of the mad landscape diagrams, literally 1,000 different products, and with a lot of overlap. So we predicted that the era of modern data stack is coming to an end. And I'll mention in just a few minutes what is replacing that. The other thing that we also noticed was data mesh is an amazing concept. I love data mesh. Everything Jean-Marc has done has been fabulous, but it's still a concept. And we noticed that there wasn't a very strong adoption of data mesh. Europe actually has pushed back quite a bit and said, no, you're wrong, data mesh is alive and thriving, but not so much in the US. The one thing that did stand out from the four principles of data mesh is actually the last thing you see on this table, which says data products. I think data products is definitely has legs, although even data products, sometimes the businesses are like, what is a data product? They've read books, they've read articles, they still are confused. But I think data products is really one thing that really stood out. So these were the two declining pieces. Now let's go to, if modern data stack is declining, then what is replacing it? What is replacing is actually the very first trend in intelligent data platforms. Now remember, this publication came out in January of 2024. Now by 2025, this is exactly what businesses want and what hyperscalers and other companies are delivering. What they're delivering is this intelligent data platform. Is a unified platform for structured data, unstructured data, batch, real-time, streaming, transactional, analytical. So it's basically, it's a stack where at the lowest, bottommost layer, you've got your object store where you're putting your data in Parquet files or CSV, JSON, and then you've got, for structured, you've got open table formats, Iceberg and Delta being the big ones. For unstructured data, you're doing embeddings, and you're storing the vector embeddings and then putting some vector index on top. Then if you go up, you got a metadata plane where you've got your technical metadata, your business metadata. So you're doing all of your lineage, ontologies, taxonomy, and then other pieces like data quality, observability, data ops, and then you got your application layer. The application layer on top is basically it's compute engines, and these compute engines are now disaggregated, as we all know. So you got Spark. In fact, Spark has gone serverless, and then you've got on top you've got data products, chatbots, assistants, agents are coming up. Your BI products, they all are there. So this is a vertical stack which is sort of unifying. And so the biggest trend that I see is AWS launched SageMaker Lakehouse in end of December 2024. So it's been a year. In fact, it came as a big surprise. Actually, I'm trying to remember, was it last year? I think it was last year. Yes, sorry. So yeah, December 2024. So and it came as a surprise because I always thought SageMaker was the machine learning set of offerings. Bedrock is where all the emphasis should have been, which is the generative AI piece. But no, they went and rebranded SageMaker, created a whole lakehouse, integrated the Redshift data warehouse with data sitting on object store, data sitting in S3 or S3 tables exposed as Iceberg. So all that got consolidated into a unified platform. Microsoft Fabric, not only are they doing the same, but their vision also includes getting data from third-party products like SAP, Salesforce, all of these places, Google BigQuery, Snowflake and Databricks, they're doing exactly the same thing. Salesforce, They basically bought Informatica. Now they have an ETL tool. They already had Tableau, MuleSoft, Slack, all of that. So they're taking that CRM data, creating a whole analytical piece of it. So they're basically Salesforce Data Cloud is an integrated piece. It's intelligent because it has vector data from unstructured, and so you can now query the whole data estate in one place. So anyway, I'll talk more about it. Plus, I want to open it up for questions. But let me move down to the next thing that we came up with as Rising, and you see here it's called AI agents. So now agents have taken off. In fact, it's not just one agent; it is multi-agent era. I don't think multi-agents are working, by the way. Single agents are starting to work. Research agent, customer service agent, coding agents are hugely popular these days for vibe coding. So we were thinking out aloud last year that we think era of agents is coming. It's here. There are standards for agents to get data from external sources like databases and all using MCP, agents to talk to each other using A2A. So standards are being developed. Still, there's a lot of work that needs to happen, but the underlying LLMs or foundation models are becoming much better with reasoning, something that did not exist even last year. We are now starting to see that happen. The next rising trend we looked at, we called it personalized AI stack. This whole idea was that large language models like GPT-3 last year, 3.5 or 4, or Llama are generic. So we thought that the world is going to move towards either fine-tuning or training their own models. That has not happened to that much extent, but personalized also includes RAG. It includes synthetic data. At that time, there was no concept of improving the results during inference, what we call test time compute. But we were still talking about chain of thought. And so this is where we are improving the accuracy of AI for enterprise data or our personal data. So that was a third big trend. The last one is AI governance. I would say that out of these 4 trends, 3 absolutely happened. This one, AI governance, has been a bit problematic. Now you see every data governance vendor, whether it's Collibra, Informatica, Ackland, all of them, they all have now AI governance, Alation, you name it. So basically what they're saying is that governance does not limit us to just the data assets. So technical data like column, data distribution, all of that, business metadata through a semantic layer, but also what AI models do I have, which ones are approved, what use cases are using AI. So there's a lot of emphasis on AI governance, but I think it's still very early days. One reason why I think AI governance has suffered a bit is because we've been quite unclear up to this point on how we want to use AI. What are the right use cases? If you're still debating which is the right use case and doing experimentation around it, then AI governance is sort of an afterthought. Because it's unlike data, we don't have all our I's dotted and T's crossed. We're still in somewhat of an experimentation stage. So that's why governance has been a bit slow. But it is starting to take off. We are starting to see tools. Since I'm going through all this, I'll finish the stable one, and then I want to open it up for questions because I know I'm covering a lot of ground. So in stable, we talked about unified data plane when I talked about the whole vertical stack of intelligent data platforms. So Iceberg and Delta are huge. What I really like these days is no matter which product you use, if the product only writes something into Databricks as Delta, it creates an Iceberg stub, and that Iceberg stub has very low latency to create it. But if I have a tool that only reads Iceberg tables, then it populates that stub, and I can use Iceberg query engine on data that was written in Delta format, and vice versa. In Microsoft Fabric, they started with Delta as a first-class citizen, but now you can write it in Iceberg. Either way, there is cross-pollination of open table formats, so we are not locked into picking one or the other. The other big thing that we see for a few years now is cross-cloud. I would actually say hybrid cross-cloud. A huge trend has been to bring AI to where your data is, not the other way around. Because to train models or to really use AI, we are trying to throw as much data as we can. When the volume of data is so large, it's unreasonable to expect that your data should move from your on-prem, even mainframes, systems into one or more than one cloud providers. It's much better to bring AI closer to where your data is. Some of this is also important, not just because of the overhead of moving data, but for compliance reasons, security reasons. We don't want, if we've got data that's secure on premises, bringing AI to that becomes more critical. The good news is that it used to be all the innovation used to happen in the cloud. On-prem was the stepchild, forgotten, and was behind times. Now, the new definition of cloud is that cloud is not the destination. Cloud is an operating model. So all the cloud technologies that we are used to, like serverless, disaggregated compute and store through the use of object store, elastic scaling, all those things can now be done on premises. So you can get the benefit of cloud without having to move data, but on premises. So for data that cannot be moved to the cloud, we are now bringing AI to on-premises. We are also getting much better, leveraging different cloud providers. Snowflake, Databricks, they already do it. A lot of catalog providers, data observability, they're pretty much cross-platform. Metadata plane. This is, I would say, one of the hottest topics. And the reason, and the interesting trend I'm seeing is that these previous things I talked about, intelligent data platform and unified data plane, we are trying to get rid of data silos by bringing data together. Metadata, on the other hand, has a danger of now getting fragmented. And the reason is because we don't have standards for metadata, just like we have standard for Iceberg. So with Iceberg, the data can sit anywhere, but we have the same compute engine that can look at my proprietary format like Snowflake and Iceberg in the same query with the same performance. Metadata, every SaaS provider has their own metadata. Every cloud provider has it. So unifying that metadata plane becomes really important. If I have a common metadata plane, the number of use cases that I can get out of that metadata plane is phenomenal. Data quality, data lineage, observability, data preparation, feature engineering, master data management, all of these things are use cases. And but you can only do it if you have a common view of metadata. What happens today very frequently is, let's say a CFO comes to work, fires up his or her dashboard and finds out that the numbers don't look correct. The problem is that this CFO has no idea who to talk to, because let's say my data originated in SAP. SAP has its own catalog. Then I use Fivetran to move that data to Object Store. Fivetran has its own catalog. Then I use Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo is doing its own thing. I use some data prep tool that has its own metadata. Databricks has its own. So we have a very disjointed way of trying to understand what is a common metadata. So today I see metadata catalogs are actually bringing this data there into one place. So I can then have a lineage of where did this data come from, who transformed, did ETL on it, who did data quality enhancement, all the way up to my BI tool or my dashboard. So with that lineage, I can now do data observability. I can do root cause analysis. I can see who dropped the packets, or where did the data get contaminated, and I can quickly hone in and I can fix it. This concept that I'm talking about, all I'm talking about data observability, but this neatly takes us to the last trend, which is data products. A data product, by the way, a lot of confusion. What is a data product? So the way I put it is, data product in its instantiation is not any different from what you're used to. It could be a view, it could be a report, it could be a machine learning model. What makes a data product different is the way it is built and delivered. For example, this CFO dashboard is a data product. That means there is an assigned data product owner. So remember I said the CFO has no idea why these numbers are wrong, and you're running between the SAP administrator to the DBT administrator to Atlin and all of these places, and everyone's saying, well, I did my job, I don't know anything outside of my area. A data product has a designated owner. So there's somebody who's responsible for it. It has all the product management features, such as having a PRD document, defining who gets access, how often is it updated. So these are things that we are now calling data contracts. It has versioning associated with it. So there's a new version, it's backward compatible. A data product is discoverable in the catalog or the marketplace. So if I'm the owner of, let's say, the finance data product, and somebody else in the department wants to build their own data product, they can discover my data product and derive their product from it. So it's a very organized, structured way of delivering data outcomes. And that's what makes data products so powerful, because there's no second guessing as to the quality. There's assigned accountability. That's the most important thing. So you're focused on accountability, user experience, trust. So these pieces are lacking, unfortunately. If we in data get a lot of flack from the business, it's because they don't trust the data they have. So data products help us get around that. So I've sort of gone around all these 10 trends, and I want to stop here because I know I covered a lot of ground. Joe, I can stop sharing and we can open it up for Q&A.
Sounds good. Thank you. Jose, you have a question?
Yeah, Sanjeev, out of the rising trends that you have here, which do you see becoming or transitioning more into stable, and how do you make that assessment?
Great question. I would say the one that I would put most money on is a data foundation. It is this consolidation and unification of my vertical stack. And the reason why I find that to be the most important thing is because AI AI has a lot of problems. In fact, these days I'm seeing people are criticizing AI more than ever in terms of accuracy. GPT-5 came out, and we know that has been a very shaky rollout. So I would say that consolidated unified data stack is something that I see moving to stable. More than agents, although you would think that the whole world is hyper-focused on agents, but I think agents will suffer if we don't fix the data foundation. Jose, does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. If I may, follow-up question about the AI agents.
Yeah.
Do you see any kind of development in terms of validating the output of AI agents? Sometimes it feels like analogous to, say, like a machine learning module where you have a black box. You're not sure how the answer came about, whether it's correct, and so you can rely on, say, data quality, but how is the agent coming up with the answer that it's giving you, and how do you assess that quality? So I'm wondering what you see there.
So great question, Jose. Thanks for asking that. A couple of things that are going on. So first of all, since you mentioned data quality, I have a point of view on data quality. I think as data professionals, we've been trying to fix data quality for several decades, and we have failed. We cannot get to the most pristine data quality, and we have to make peace with that. Because if we try to fix data quality, then we'll miss the bus on AI. So we have to think differently. We have to see, what can I do? Maybe the way I've been trying to fix data quality is brute force by having rules, and how many rules can you have? Data is so dynamic, it's constantly changing. I'm constantly trying to create rules, and it's not scalable. So I feel that we can use LLMs. They're amazing in inferring relationships and context that we as humans fail to do it. And they do it at massive scale, like, tens of thousands of columns in a massive database. They can go through it and find the commonality. So first of all, I think we should use LLMs to infer common context, relationships between data, and use that to improve our data quality. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that agents can do tasks for me that can really save me a ton of time. And we are all doing that. We are all doing research, for instance. I think where we are going to end up within a couple of years, 2 to 5 years, is that all of us will have like an avatar, we'll have an agent. So there'll be either an agent that is based on a role, like data engineering agent, data analyst agent, data science agent, supply chain agent, or a publisher agent, you name it. So it's a role that is doing the task that it's literally automating to some extent, but with some reasoning. It is automating, it has a context, it understands, it can read my email and know that this email came from Joe versus Stefan. So Joe's request is urgent because he's trying to do this project, so I should prioritize that. All that language understanding of LLMs can be leveraged very effectively. Where I see this going is, right now, I think the reason people criticize agents when they hallucinate is because we have overinflated expectations, which happens with every new technology. Agents are not new. Secondly, we're using them in the wrong manner. There is a place for deterministic, and there's a place for more creative stuff. If I'm a CFO, I have to do my SEC reporting. LLMs can help me be supremely productive, but I shouldn't be using an LLM. I'm going to, it'll land me in jail if I have my wrong data from compliance point of view. I should use SQL or Python because it's deterministic. But if I'm looking for opportunities to save cost, and I want LLM to go out, look at my spend year over year, and give me some suggestions as to, your spend has gone up in this area because of this. You should rethink how your budget should be done. I think it's a great thing, better than a human being. So I think this is the future of agents is going to be, today is going to be more deterministic. Maybe in 5 years, who knows? We may reach a stage where even where we need 100% accuracy, we can use LLMs. I don't see it right now. Right now, if I'm a finance person, it's either 100% accuracy or it's go home. There is no like, this LLM is amazing, it's 80% accurate. It's not enough. So I'm just sharing some thoughts.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jose, for the question. Jason, do you still have a question? I'm going in the order of hands raised, by the way. So.
The queue, so to say. Yeah, Sanjeev actually started going where my question was headed, but I'm gonna ask anyways, which is a little bit of two parts. I guess how do you see generative AI playing out, quote unquote, fixing data engineering problems, right? And you started going down this path. And then a little bit of a related, I think there's a little bit of a catch-22 there, because there's a bit of like, you're trying to fix to your point, like you want the thing that's trained on the data to fix the data that is broken to some degree, a little bit of yeah, exactly. And then I guess very related to how much do you think that this is going to impact or can we solve the problems is how much are you willing to let an agent per se work autonomously? So closely related.
Yeah. So Jason, at this point in time, I am not going to rely on an autonomous data agent. And there's a reason for that. Because an agent, by definition, is breaking the task into multiple steps, and it's reasoning, picking the right step to do. So the problem with my biggest fear of agent is by making it autonomous, I don't know if it hallucinates, what impact it'll have on the downstream systems. So without human oversight, I'm not willing to unleash an agent, just because the impact is huge. If it was just a single task, then I'm happy to do it. But there are some tasks where I have very high confidence in agents. For example, let's say I break my pipeline into several agents. The first agent is metadata discovery. The second is metadata enrichment. The third one is creating semantic tags and documenting it and putting it in the catalog. So, and then it goes on: data quality, observability, creating profiles, security profiles, enforcing them. So that's the first step I would do. I would say in my task, I am literally going to have 10 different agents. Each agent is narrowly scoped to what it does the best. With some human oversight, there's a few that I can just approve. Metadata discovery, I think I can go with it because I know my data is not all over the place. There's a identification of phone number, social security number, address, gender, some of these things. So tagging, discovering, I can handle. Enrichment, I would still have some oversight because I just want to make sure it's enriched correctly. And maybe after a while, I am the underneath model is iteratively learning and self-improving, so I can leave it alone. When it comes to business logic, I don't think I'm ready to let my agent write my data transformation logic. That to me is vibe coding is not for that. I can use vibe coding for building a website, and if some things are like wonky, it's okay, but not for my business logic. That is something I would still get the requirements from the business, maybe code it. I'll still use the agent to help me get productive and do all my unit test documentation. All of that I can let it do. But the core logic, I would keep it to myself. I don't know, Joe, how you feel, because you wrote the book on data engineering. But so I'm deciding which agent is to be autonomous, which agent is to be semi-autonomous, and which agent I just cannot let it be used for.
I mean, I would say that even the observability for deterministic pipelines is still hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. It's also, I mean, it's something I've been talking about with vendors where I feel I'm of two minds on this. On one hand, I feel like the way that autonomous agents are pitched for pipelines is sort of weird right now. Because like, imagine how many pipelines you could create. And I'm like, I don't know that was ever a metric that I would care about, or anybody I know would care about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Why does the business care how many pipelines we created?
Right. And then of course, you don't know what it did. Yeah, Jason says lines of code. We've talked about this a lot in our Discord, where it feels like the number of pipelines, number of agents, number of this, number of that, right. Even lines of code now, right? Like that is the new metric. Whereas back in the day, that was the metric you wanted to avoid. You wanted fewer lines of code, actually, not more. Every line of code is complexity, right? And when you're writing software, but now everything's been flipped on its head, where it's about more and more and more and more and more. At the same time, at least my take on things is pipelines should be idempotent, i.e., as functional as possible. I have an input, I have an output. To the degree that I can. Data is always different when it comes in and out, but ideally it should be similar-ish. Yeah, so for every reason in the world, I can see the value in it if it works in expected ways. But yeah, the stuff I've been working on, I feel like the vibe coding is of two flavors. There's a lot of bloat, and I have no idea what it does. So that sucks. Huge problem. You should know what your pipelines do. Ideally, if you don't care, that's your problem. I guess you get to deal with whatever happens to your job as well. So it's a weird one.
It's so weird. It's basically, I joke, this is why my podcast is called It Depends. If it is a well-defined, commonly run routine is right for automation, I think agent can do amazing job coding it. But if there are edge cases, and which normally is the case, then I would manually code it for now.
Yeah, that's fucking weird. Yeah, so anyway, we're in this weird bizarro land right now. Where I did a podcast on this a couple weeks ago. I feel like we're just at this like high school party or Burning Man or something, where everyone's like, "Yeah, man, just like."
Yeah.
Let it rip, man. I'm like, okay, but that's not how we used to think about this even a year ago. So I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Once has an idea. You're patiently there with your hand up, Matt. So I want to make sure you get to question.
Bizarro, yes, Dan. Okay, what other questions? Who else have the
Matthew Mullins, I think, was up next.
I have a question that's not about agents. So I have a question about your trends, which is that on the one hand, we have these rise of intelligent data platforms. So huge consolidation from Microsoft, Google, and then we have this cross-cloud, which is very stable, cross-cloud, which now includes on-prem, right? Because we have the ability to operate on-prem the way we do in the cloud, right? But the consolidation play of intelligent data platforms is kind of antithetical to this cross-platform. They want you to consolidate on Microsoft, consolidate on Google, which is, inherently not cross-cloud, definitely not on-prem, which raises another question, which is, which doesn't figure on your trends at all, but this kind of idea of like the open source composable data platform that's been around. And you talked about Iceberg a little bit as like a foundation for that. But like Iceberg, ClickHouse has raised a bunch of money recently. we have like the traditional like Fabric, Trino, and Dremio, and folks that play in that realm. So,
So Matthew,
curious about that tension. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, that open standard thing is actually being built up quite a bit. There's also DuckDB. There's also standards like in metadata. I said there are no standards. Actually, there are standards that have been out there, but they haven't really been adopted. Open Lineage has the most momentum right now. There's also open metadata, but it's been around for a few years. So, and all the way up to, you can use Ray, Spark as your compute engine. And companies are doing that. Most of the time I'm working with enterprises, and they have everything under the sun, like large company banks, they have everything. So they do experiment, but in the end, there are places where open standards make sense, like file format or table. Why would I have anything proprietary? In fact, this is something I've documented in my blog on Snowflake Summit. We even asked Snowflake's top leadership, why do you even have Snowflake proprietary format? Just let it be all Iceberg. And they were pretty candid. They were actually, I would say, a breath of fresh air. They were like, look, we support Iceberg first-class citizen, but within Snowflake, we do micro-partitions, we do compaction, we have high availability, some reliability, 5 nines, 4 nines, SLA guarantee. So there are these things that don't exist in open standards as yet. So as long as that's the case, there will be room for proprietary standards, and there'll be room for open standards. And I think they'll coexist. And they were like, maybe in a few years, Iceberg, the version 4 spec has things like streaming ingest and a few things. So maybe by version 5 or 6, Iceberg will be so good, you won't even need any ClickHouse. You just use Iceberg. So I'm just postulating, I don't know. But for now, what ClickHouse does, Iceberg cannot do. And the kind of performance that ClickHouse gets. So that's why you've got both proprietary and open standards. You can, and the beauty of this stack is it's so disaggregated that you can pick and choose your tools. If for some purpose you think it's better to use DuckDB because the volume of data is under 10 terabytes, then go ahead and use DuckDB, Duck Lake, or any of those new things that are coming out. But for other use case, you use Snowflake. For something else, you use Databricks, because Databricks is, let's say, better in some machine learning, data science work with its models. So we now are living in the era of riches. You can pick and choose whatever tool you want, and the cost has come down. It used to be that just 2 years ago, it was Snowflake only if you were in modern data stack, and your cost was through the roof. But now you can say that, look, why am I using Snowflake for data enrichment? I can use Spark and do it outside of Snowflake, enrich my data, so do my bronze layer outside, and then bring it into Snowflake for my gold layer or things like that. So now we have choices that we did not have just 2 years ago.
Did that answer your question, Matt?
Yep. Thanks.
Cool. I'm actually gonna go to Dan first because JT already asked the question.
That's fine.
Dan, go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. You mentioned DuckDB a couple times, and like I've used it a little bit. It's that simple, but I don't quite understand how it fits, like what problem it's trying to solve. It seems to be antithetical to the open format wars that maybe are coming to an end or getting better. So like, and I don't have a good imagination for these kind of things. So where would I fit that into my stack, or why? Or is it really just a solution in search of a problem? That's how I perceive it, but I haven't used it enough to know that. Curious to know how you would use it, or if it's something that's still too new to, still looking for like market fit?
I think it's the market fit is there, but there are too many choices. So Matthew, what's your thought?
I mean, DuckDB is wired into a lot of tools that you already use, or that people already use. So DuckDB, if you have small data, we use DuckDB in our UI. Real data uses DuckDB. So there's a lot of places where DuckDB functions like a SQLite. It's the analytics version of SQLite as a single in process, but I know a ton of data scientists that use it in notebooks. So it's like one of the first things they include for working with local data. So if you need a column-oriented analytics engine, it's like the fastest thing you can run on your laptop. It's actually the fastest thing you could run on a single server as well. So there's a huge market for that, both for data science use cases and for analysts. I don't think any enterprise is going to go out and deploy it standalone for its individual users, but it's wired into all kinds of tools.
Well, so you see folks using it in place of things like pandas and polars. It sounds like maybe as a more simple and more performant alternative.
You get a lot of the benefits of a database that you don't get in data frames, right? So you get type consistency, all the stuff, type safety, all consistency, all the stuff that you basically don't get with pandas. Pandas is great. I love it. It's also very frustrating to work with, right?
Yeah.
So I think, but it's interesting too, because you're seeing some, like I remember Okta had a talk a couple of years ago where they had, they're doing all their data processing using AWS Lambda and DuckDB, and just spinning up DuckDB in Lambda and doing processing there, which I thought was pretty sick actually. So
that's Jake Thomas.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Like I don't I don't approach these things. I'm not an early adopter of anything really, so I just sit in the sidelines and watch, and I'm like, this is interesting, but I don't know how I would use it. It sounds like it's more for people we support than perhaps our own use. But Joe, you gave an example where that's not the case. So yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, both of you. All of you.
By the way, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the database space. So we talk about DuckDB as a column-oriented analytical store. If you look at operational side, we haven't talked about it because my deck was from last year, but this year, Snowflake bought Crunchy Data, Databricks bought Neon, and so it's opened up this whole operational discussion which we weren't having last year. It was all about analytical, but now the focus is shifted to operational. If you think about it, operational databases are damn hard to do compared to analytical. Analytical doesn't have to worry about asset, multiple people writing to it. Operational, we have got distributed databases. Amazon came out with Aurora distributed. We've got relational, document, graph, time series. We've got a whole load of data types, Cassandra type. So that operation piece, in fact, is also confusing because Databricks or Neon says 80% of the databases are created by agents. I can see that relational databases, there's a role for a database underneath an agent, so I can store the state, the context, the memory. If I'm going agent to agent, I need to know like where in the life cycle is agent A for agent B to take over. So I need the state. But do I need a Postgres database? Can I not use SQLite, for example? Why not? Right? I mean, Postgres was built for humans to be able to declaratively query data. If agents are going to take over, why do they need Postgres? Maybe key value is good enough. So, I mean, these are just my thoughts. I'm just sharing.
That makes sense. I like the analogy of SQLite being the analytical version of SQLite. That mental model makes sense to me more than it did 5 minutes ago. So, thank you. I appreciate everyone's comments there.
JT, I think you're next in queue.
Yay. There's also, I think there was two other questions maybe in the chat. I'll put my hand down. Kind of jumping off of a little bit what Matt said and some of the other questions, right? Especially in today's age, there's a huge information gap and like monstrous. Anybody that's in consulting here, congratulations. I hope you're raking in tons of money. But outside of that, we are, at least I'm seeing a ton of people that, for better or for worse, are trying to adopt, like in air quotes, governance and data best practices, but they're doing so without any defined goal. So it's like governance for governance sake, right? And as much as I think a large majority of us would probably all support doing governance, without any defined purpose, it feels like maybe the data community is kind of spinning its wheels and getting some attention, which is like both a good and a bad thing. Like, I guess I'm curious, one, if you're seeing this, and two, how you feel about that. Because like I think we all agree that we want to support best practices, but I think that there's a little bit of a land grab here just because AI has told everybody, hey, you have to get your data foundation in order, and now people are just doing it without any real any real, like, where are we going? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so Jason, I have so many thoughts on the topic you just broached, data governance. First of all, if people are doing data governance just to check off the box, good luck to them. Their career is not going to survive, because data governance is not a cool thing to do. It used to be that data governance was a very defensive thing. It was, you did data governance for Sarbanes-Oxley, Basel II kind of compliance. So there was no future. You had no career growth. Data governance then shifted to becoming the sexy thing of democratizing data, making data available, accessible in a safe manner. And so you could do a ton of things with data. So that is the more offensive way. And I love that part. I think data governance is really become important. But companies have so many scars from failed data governance projects. They don't even want to call it data governance. They want to call it data enablement, data intelligence, anything to get away from data governance. The second point is data governance is a business initiative. It should not be an IT data initiative, because you're not doing governance for the sake of governance. There's a business need that is dictating that data to be governed. So anyone who's sitting in their cubicle and thinking that let me just do governance for the sake of it, is going to fail, because there's just too many scars and there's no funding for governance. Like, governance funding comes when it gets in, like, to seriously critical to the business from delivering a new product, because now you need to know who's allowed to see what data. You need rollback or attribute-based access control. You need the high data quality. So the business should drive it, and the data team has a seat on the table, because they're not just executing, they are bringing their knowledge of data to this party.
No, I think we agree. And some of us were saying just in the comments, I don't know if you can see them, Sanjeev, but
No, I can see.
the fact that, yeah, I mean, like, there is definitely an uptick. I think maybe all of us are seeing in things like data engineering, governance. I see governance with like a big G, right? Like,
Yeah.
all encompassing governance.
Yeah.
And then, right, and then there is, and then Jose said it as well. There's I have a funny comment about that, but Jose also mentioned the fact that there's a scare tactic right now saying that you're not ready for AI because you can't get your data in order, right? And that you're not ready.
Yeah.
And frankly, AI has come to this point, even though nobody's data is in order. So like, it's kind of a silly statement. I think Joe said barely anybody's ready for BI. I have a funny comment from an ABC perspective that, like, people need CI, right, as a basic infrastructure oriented thing before you can even get to BI and then go to AI, right? So it's like ABCs but backwards. But it just, there's still a big gap. I think people are just scared and everybody's trying to.
By the way, I have a point of view on companies that are not ready for BI. How can they do AI? In a lot of poorer countries in the world, getting a landline phone connection was an act of God. you have to bribe people, you have to wait for 6 months for you to get that line. And then mobile phones came in, all of a sudden, all that monopoly was gone. So I'm just saying that, like, the way we didn't wait to fix the limelight, we just went straight to mobile, and then no holds barred, everyone had a cell phone. So I'm saying that we shouldn't compare, like, let's try to fix BI before we can do AI. I think that BI has its place. Anyone who says dashboards are dead, they don't get it. No, dashboards have their place. But let's decouple BI and AI and look at them from independent lenses. Because if we haven't fixed BI after trying for 10 years, there is no hope for us. So let's not worry about it, is what I'm trying to say.
Awesome. Thank you.
I know we're at time here, Sanjeev, so I'm respectful of everyone's time here. But thanks a ton for coming here. For people who want to learn more about you, how can we find you?
So LinkedIn is the best way for me. And I would love for people who are watching this to subscribe to my YouTube channel and Medium, because I'm trying to grow that channel, and I'm trying to put as much good content as I can. My goal is to be vendor neutral, just like Joe, although Joe is far more vocal than I am. He's the bad cop, I'm the good cop here. Sorry, Joe. But still, I'm trying to get as much content as I can. So your support would be absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjeev. Next week we have who else is here? Marianne Belletti. So she is the author of Kill It With Fire, which we're reading in our book club right now. So that's a book about the pitfalls of IT modernization. I think it's one of the best books I've ever read in our field. So she'll be giving a lunch and learn next Wednesday, and I believe the podcast that we've done will be dropping tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Got a lot of exciting lunch and learns coming up. I tend to announce these kind of spur of the moment. I maybe can do a better job, but I think the turnout for Sanjeev, having been giving less than 24 hours notice on this one, was very good. So I definitely appreciate everybody showing up. Feel free to participate in the Practical Data Discord community as well. Lots of fun chats there, good cops, bad cops, and everything in between. So it's definitely, I think it's a great place. I just let people do pretty much whatever the hell they want, to be frank. I don't care, but it's a lot of good conversation. So anyway, thanks a lot. And Sanjeev, appreciate it a ton, man. So we'll see you.
I love doing this. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to do it again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Okay.